God. It happened, man. We actually have news to talk about, and the talent system is basically being iterated upon, and a lot of information is coming out, and it's getting me excited, man.
I mean, yeah, we have to be excited and hyped for this because there's no more borrowed power, more or less, and the only borrowed power are the actual talents, the new talents, and I do believe that this feature, so to say, will be crucial for Dragonflight. It's gonna make or break what the game 100%. Will be. And there's a lot of things going into this. Obviously, we have a lot of things written down, but there's also a lot of like super, I would say, instantaneous thoughts and like spontaneous combustion creativity when talking about this. We can start it off by explaining to people what they actually are. Start off,
but first, you should also start off by checking our MO Cast channel, where we actually have podcasts with basically content creators and theory crafters across the community of World of Warcraft, ranging from specs, if you're interested to know about a more in-depth talk about your spec, or maybe you want to check our Breaking WoW, which is basically a bunch of brains just
smashing it up and dissecting everything that works and doesn't work for World of Warcraft, on top of like all of the previous episodes where we have a lot of content creators, as Flame mentioned, and a lot of podcasts regarding the specs and so on. And it's all filmed and recorded right here, right? And this is the spot. We changed the decor a little bit. The decor, that's what I said, and the link is in the description. Okay, so after you watch this video and you're interested in a World of Warcraft podcast with a variety of topics within it, check the link in the description. It's available everywhere on all the streaming platforms and on YouTube. So yeah, it's there.
It's
all right. Let's get into
the talents.
The new talent system. Obviously, this is one of the biggest things they announced for the Dragonflight reveal. We had videos on the channel with our reactions, our first reactions, like super hot takes over there. But now it's time to like just sit down and analyze a bit what has been going on. And we can kick it off by explaining on what I would say the initial format is, like, you know, because you saw the images, right? You saw the little boomkin thing, the druid thing over there, and you saw the squares, the circles, all of the things, and initially nobody really knew what was that all about. So let's explain this first iteration, which might change. Okay, this might change in the future. I think something has already changed, right?
Yeah,
so go ahead, Flame.
Right.
It says right here, man.
If you've noticed, if you've looked over the talent tree, you've noticed that they're like every ability is like in a different type of shape, and each shape kind of matters. So basically, the squares are active abilities. You can think of something like Convoke. We're just gonna use Convoke because that's maybe the one thing that stood out the most. The circles are passives, which are probably something that we're more familiar with from the old talent systems, and the octagons are choices. Since there will be like a crossroads when you go down the talent tree and you can choose different paths, that's where the octagons are. I do like to mention one thing, and we can talk about this as well, is that in the initial reveal we had some like diamond shapes on the side, and I think we had what was it, Stampeding Roar in it.
Yeah, it looked like utility stuff.
Yeah, the utility. Oh, and they said that they're gonna take those out in the sense that those were supposed to be like big cooldowns, whatever. They're not gonna keep the diamonds.
That is being removed,
but we don't know if they're removing Stampeding Roar. I would think not.
I'm guessing maybe things like that they can actually bake somehow into the core class or spec ability, not place it necessarily into the challenge tree. Do you think that would be something they would consider?
They listed. They have released an FAQ with the talents, and I think the FAQ was done internally, but regardless, there were some interesting questions there. And what's very interesting is that they've made it clear that we're not going to be in a position where we have to choose between utility and throughput, which is the case in certain specs right now in the talent tree right now, where you have like utility, but there's one that gives damage, so obviously everybody picks that. Obviously we can discuss balance, but that's something that's going to be ongoing. What did stood out, by the way, and wanted to know what you think about this. They're putting interrupts in the talent.
Yeah, I saw that. Then I had kind of like mixed feelings because of this. Because this is the thing. If it's gonna be a shakeup in a lot of ways, and I'm gonna focus a lot on this going through the video. Having interrupts as talents will be major, depending on what. It's hard to say this. What will they compensate, or what will they compete with? Because if you go on a path where you have the interrupt there,
You're probably always gonna have to take it. It depends on how
you're clunked in, right? So that's the path here. Because I mean, okay, you can talk mythic dungeons. I mean, you're definitely.
I mean, that's probably where you would take interrupts the most,
and PvP
and it
as
depends
well.
exactly, clearly, but it depends exactly how they're developing the content, because this is basically a little bit off topic, but not really. When we went from BFA to Shadowlands, they didn't want us to have that massive AOE, so they nerfed they put the AOE cap, and instead to make it even clearer that we cannot just pull a million mobs, they have a lot of mobs that shoot from range, a lot of mobs that need to be interrupted, and a lot of mobs that need to be CC'd. So every pack has at least about 2 mobs that need to be handled in a certain way with utility. Now, this made interrupts very mandatory in Shadowlands right now in dungeons. I mean, can you imagine doing a dungeon without like a high key?
It's impossible.
So that's very, if they stick to that, although I believe that they will go back on it and put it baseline, but if they stick to that, that would mean that they would have to develop the content in such a way where we don't have to interrupt as much.
This is the thing, right? Because with the new the new way they're gonna do Mythic plus seasons and stuff, we're gonna have older dungeons coming back, and you know, you had BFA dungeons where you needed interrupts, and when we're gonna get Shadowlands dungeons into the mix with the 4 dungeons first, then 4 dungeons from the past, then interrupts will be mandatory regardless. So I don't think this is I don't like this. Just to put it out there, having the interrupt as a talent, it's a major shakeup. Now, I just want to say this because it always crossed my mind. The thing is, we as players kind of got used to, and I would dare say trained, to play the game always expecting and going towards a power creep that is like further and further, no, closer and closer as you play the game. This will be for the first time in years, I think since Legion, where there's nothing out there. All you'll have to do is basically unlock your talent points and use them. It's going to be a big shakeup because there's not going to be this. So this is the thing.
You're talking about external powers, right?
Yeah, the external powers and the fact that these talents will replace them. So here's the deal. You remember on each and every new expansion where you went from Legion to BFA, from BFA to Shadowlands, right? You always had that feeling that you were weak. You were like shallow.
You lost that power. Yeah.
And I've seen Convoke over there. Okay, I'm hoping that a lot of the other stuff is going to be right there into it, but it's going to be the same feeling. Hopefully now, without that carrot stick in front of you, like the any whatever power or whatever, it's going to be made in a way that won't feel for the future expansions like that will not make you as shallow moving forward. Not even future expansions. I'm also thinking from patch to patch, because and I'm just gonna. This is like the biggest thing. A lot of players will be confused because listen. We got to be real here. Not a lot of people have played Warlords or Mists. A lot of people today kind of skipped on those. A lot of people kind of started. You remember all of the comments we had and all of the chats on Discord that people either started in Legion or BFA, and it's like. Dude, I'm telling you, man, it's gonna be weird for other people to get
It's different, and maybe it's definitely what the game needs to be different, right? It's a breath of fresh air, and like you said, the influx of new players is smaller than the community of the old players right now. So it's kind of like a balance between the two.
Even you're gonna see when we're gonna get to that, it's gonna feel weird.
We're gonna make the guides. Well, see, one thing again that stood out as well is basically, I think it came in the Hazel interview with Yanaz, and it's something that I at least have been saying it for years, and I thought it was pretty obvious, and maybe it is, the fact that conduits, Azrai power, legendaries, all of this were the talents that normally we would get from an expansion to expansion, the talents and new abilities, right? If you go from like classic to TBC, you get a new row of talents and a new set of abilities. Same with TBC to Wrath of the Lich King and so on. For years, this has been the thing, and the talent trees were usually the new stuff, the new power that the players would gain in the new expansion alongside the items in the tier sets and so on. Yep. But Ian did say this in the interview with Hazel that they just said that like all of these were the talents. These were like kind of the talents that we would get, but we kept taking them away, which is, I mean, I mean, yeah.
We always said
but
this.
because he said that, that means either they knew it, but the internal team, either they knew it all along, because it's not like it's like a revolutionary surprise or whatever. Either they knew it internally, or at least they're now acknowledging it and using it internally in their mindset, aka we're not gonna keep taking things from the players.
That's one of the biggest things I think Ian talked about in the multiple interviews, actually, because I mean, I know it wasn't a surprise for them to acknowledge this, that every time you start a new expansion, you just are stripped away of everything you worked for and just reset all the time. And this is the thing. We talked about it in podcasts. We talked about it in previous on cooldown videos. It was a sad state of affairs to have the specs you love to play be so heavily constructed on these external systems that would eventually go away. And this is why you always got this feeling of having to play a shallow of a spec whenever a new expansion was released, because you didn't have access to everything that made you work and made you fun at the end of the previous expansion. And I know they acknowledged this for a long time, but you know, I'm not going to go into the arguments on why or whatever. It's good that now, like at the biggest slap in the face and the chin and whatever they had in history, they realized this. And I honestly feel that this talent system, we're kind of making it seem like a huge deal, but it is kind of a really huge deal. This is like the biggest feature they could have done, acknowledging their core players.
And it also matters how they're
existing players, because we talked about this for a long time. It always felt like they ignored the existing crowd. I would say the loyalists. They say the loyalists. And always kind of focused on, the returning ones, or sometimes even new players. Although we can definitely say that new players, I don't really know. But focusing now on what the core crowd has always said for years is, I think, the biggest sign that the ship is turning. Now, there's going to be problems. Don't get twisted. This talent tree, we will have a lot of problems. We'll have a lot of balancing issues. So
that's always going to be a thing.
But listen, I prefer to have problems with a talent tree with points than having problems with a million different external things like conduits, soul binds, soul shards, legendaries, and dare to say some weird ass items as well. I'm not going to go into items, but focusing on the talent tree here. Now, just to stop derailing a little bit, one thing that is very, very huge here is that all of the devs, including Ian, said, okay, we're open to what you want. Halinka as well. What do you want for this talent tree to look like? And I'm happy that if they do take into account what people are saying and, you know, fairly argumented and not just, you know, throwing things on the wall, I think it's for the better. And just to circle back to what I said previously, this has the potential of making your spec feel less shallow when you go into Dragonflight, at least in terms of like the Covenant abilities. Well, I feel for my red, I feel Divine Toll is something that I really, really want. And I really,
I don't think anybody argues with that.
Flagellation, you stinkers, flagellation, not flatulation. That's also something I want for my rogue. Slappy hands, right?
Slappy hands, exactly. You did mention something about, you know, balancing being an issue, and that's always going to be a thing. And there's a controversial opinion in my eyes so far. I don't know if a lot of people feel the same way, but this is something to do again with the FAQ.
Hey, it's me.
Hey, it's you. This is me. Professionals. But they did mention something in the FAQ, and that is that you will be gaining most, if not most of your abilities as you level up in your class from your talent tree. This is different than what it was before, because before we also had talents that unlock passives and bonuses and some abilities here and there, but most of the abilities you've learned either from your trainer in the first days of WoW or as you leveled up. Now we're gonna get them from the talent tree. I don't know what this means, because there's a lot of abilities that you should have. How big are these talent trees going to be? But if they do play this right, then this can can open up so many avenues of adding new stuff. Each expansion, instead of adding like a new conduit or a new soulbound or whatever the equivalent would be for, let's say, 11.0, they could add like another column of talents or another row of talents, which, I mean, it's not something new, but because the talent isn't as restrictive as it once was, think about, you know, Wrath, and also, you know, what we have now, it's not as restrictive. They can play with the arrangements, the setup.
This is
balance can go like you can lower the percentage.
So, exactly. One of the quote unquote unbalancing would be that for the first time in so many years we could actually definitely try out some hybridization in between the specs like we used to have, and this is so cool because they're not just doing like a spec talent tree, right? Like we remember we used to have like spec talent trees back in the days, like you go into Frost, you go into Fire, you go into Arcane, that's fine, but you could also hybridize between the two, and that was always super cool. Now you see them kind of like taking that idea from the Shadowlands, like having, okay, unpruning from the class, more focus on class identity, and then just, you know, sculpting your spec. Looking at the talent tree now, you can see there's points within the class and there's points within the spec. I believe it's like 31 into the class and 30 into the spec. Currently, that might change.
At level 70 when you get 70.
Yeah. That also implies that, and they confirmed this, new, okay, NEW, new abilities are coming for all the specs. And this is, again, something that they asked, okay, what do you want? And can I say it again for the Red Paladins? Because this is so cool. So, there's this Turalian Smite thing that I always talk about for Red Paladins. It was in the Legion Alpha, and I loved it, and it felt so good to see it. That's an option, and I'm sure a lot of specs have other things that kind of were in the game but never implemented that can get back there. But new abilities, but listen, new abilities within your talent tree, you unlock them there, not within some form of weird ass gear or some format weird ass, I don't know, system that you unlock through the dragons or whatever. No, it's within yours. And you know what that means? It means that within the next patch or in the new expansion, you get to keep that. That doesn't go away. And they did say that Ian mentioned this, that they designed this from the ground up to be able to at least have you covered for a couple of expansions, because they did say at some point they'll have to, like, it's going to get bloated and they have to get something. They haven't excluded the external bar power completely, but for at least a couple of expansions, we're covered, and whatever we get stays there. And you can get the fear that we always had, and this is why Cataclysm pruned a lot of the talents. You know, the progression was always like, how is it? Horizontal, not horizontally, vertical, right?
Yeah.
There's vertical progression. You always had to go down, 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 down. The design of this looks different. I mean, they can go down a little bit, but it can also go sideways. So you can have like a vertical progression within the expansions, right?
Horizontal.
That's what I said. What? That's what I say. God damn it! It's hard. You know, English sometimes it's hard. Forgive me, but you understand what I'm saying. The progression can be horizontally as well, not always vertical. And this is cool. You can see things like Path of Exile. I don't want WoW to become Path of Exile.
I was about to say as cliche as it sounds,
but it has the space, I would say, the space to go in all of the directions without clumping it up too much. That's what I'm saying. And again, this is crucial.
Well, if anything, the way that they're designing the system gives them a lot of options to tweak, whereas what we have now, which is the most restrictive one, and what was prior, didn't give them a lot of room to tweak. You like you mentioned in the vertical ones, you always had to go down, and what we have now is just like choose one of three. Which So I'm actually having high hopes for this because it could be what the game needed. It's the core. It's not going to be, like you mentioned, a person that we're going to lose, so that fear is going away, and that opens up a lot of things outside of the talent trees for them to do, like what we have with Dragonriding, which can be the system of Dragonflight, which is purely cosmetic.
Yeah, purely
cosmetic
and utilitarian in the world.
Fun.
Yeah.
And it's pure fun. And I know I don't know where I saw this, but there was a comment on one of the videos talking about this, and it struck me because it's so true. This is so cool because there's no reason to have Dragonriding in Dragonflight except for pure fun. There's no practical reason for it.
They did say that
they want to make it practical, right? With traversing
because of the world. Yeah. So the design of the Dragon Isles is basically much more vertical and much more. I think somebody said that this is the biggest continent they made so far.
The biggest zones.
In the history of WoW, and because of that, dragon riding is kind of needed in a way. But once again, that's a different video. We will have a separate video on that.
That's what I mean.
Flying versus no flying. We will have a video on that because
the thing is they can do that because they don't have to do it as a power system externally. Since they're making talents.
Yes, I agree.
So that's why I think the talents are actually the way that they're designing this talent concept is going to be crucial and very beneficial if they keep to their current mindset and they keep iterating on it.
Here's the deal, though.
Dildo.
the just having like all of the manpower and the creative juices and the major ideas just being concentrated on this one thing that has the knobs to directly impact whatever is needed spec wise and class wise is so much better than having something external that is like a multiple I would say layout of knobs to be so goddamn underwhelming. And in terms of like having the manpower to develop something that is external rather than something that is internal and focused on the spec is a huge win. And as crucial as it is for Dragonflight to succeed, now just being able to work on something that is 100% focused on your class and spec of choice rather than the external thing that will affect all of the specs you play and the specs that other people play or whatever is a lot more, I would say, easier for even them to develop and balance and make it fun and make it work. This is the thing. For so long they focused so much on all of these systems that were so hard to tweak and balance and implement for the multitude of specs. I honestly believe that internally they had this like, oh my god, yes, finally we can work on this and not have to like bob our heads onto the wall all the time to make all of the external shit work.
Sure.
It's all I'm saying. As doomsaying as it sounds, because it is kind of like, if this doesn't work, it will be shit all over the place. Trust me. But all the premises are there for this to actually make all of the specs and classes work a lot better and feel better, and most importantly, have them work for a bigger period of time. And
that was the main takeaway from why they've swapped from the old talent system to the new one, which was an antiquated one. This one looks
antiquated. That's a very nice word. Use it more.
This looks really good, and I'm actually having high hopes. This was one of the biggest selling points for me when they revealed the.
It's not a box feature, but it is a feature for the core crowd, for the loyalists, and that is more important right now.
For the last couple of years, we've dabbled into all of the specs, into all of the systems, and we can confidently say that starting from the talents is where you get the most fun, and the game builds up from there. So addressing a core issue can fix a lot of the problems that have been created over the years. So I'm very excited for this. I'm constantly looking at anything that's posted about talents because I want my slappy hands in the talent tree, man.
Yeah, I want my Vital, my flagellation, and there's a lot of things. So yeah, just to wrap it up here, this is, if done right, this will be the savior of World of Warcraft. Dragonriding is cool. Itemization is another topic we can talk about. Tier sets are cool. Legendaries can be cool when done right. There's all of this. But at the core, we always said this. You start off playing this game with your spec and class. And if that feels shit, you can basically forget about all of the systems and all of the content. It doesn't mean shit. If the core thing, the first thing you interact with, the first thing you become involved with does not work properly, everything else doesn't matter. So this is why the new talents, we are like 100% confident they will be great, but they also, just have that question mark up in the back of your head. Will it actually save WoW? Yes, it will. This is the thing that will save
this is what was needed. This has something that has been needed, I think, ever since WoD, if I can be so bold as to go back as far as WoD.
Yeah.
Legion was okay, but Legion added the artifact weapon, which was the new thing, and that again showed that, you know, we like to go through things and pick stuff and have a little bit more depth.
It's gonna be cool. And let us know what you think about this, okay? Well, so far, with the information we have so far and what we discussed here, what are your thoughts on this? Like, honestly, and do you believe that this is the make or break, or do you think this is something that will just fly and nobody will give a damn? Everybody's gonna go into the end game and just play Myth plus PvP rating. Let us down. Let us down in the comments. No. But you know who always speaks English correctly? Our Patreons, man, because they, you know, they support the content. They have to speak it correctly because, you know, there's like all of these videos that we do on a weekly basis with the class guides, with the podcast, with the on cooldowns on Wednesdays, chill list Fridays, on Fridays. What a shock. So you're supporting all of this, and if you want to become a Patreon,
you can go check the link down below and check our Patreon page with all the tiers and all the goodies and all the good stuff.
Rewards, yeah. So thank you, Patreons. Thank you, future Patreons. Thank you, viewer, for watching and viewing this. It's a nice view. So we'll see you very soon with another one. Bye-bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.